Hi, I'm Bob Vila. Welcome home again to our Vermont farmhouse project. Today we're doing two exciting things. We're painting the exterior of the house, and it's going to be a sprayed-on paint job, so there's a lot to learn there. Inside the house, we're installing the kitchen cabinets. Bob Ryley will be here to give us a hand. Also, we'll take you on a tour of the Crown Point factory where they're being made in Claremont, New Hampshire. Stick around. It's good to have you home again. An exterior paint job, whether it's on an old house or a brand new house, always requires lots of preparation work. Let's say hello to Kevin DeBurge, who I'm Coulomb Painting.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
Now, the fellas are doing a lot of caulking and stuff, right?
Yep.
What kind of caulking are you using?
We're using acrylic caulking. I believe it's 35 year.
Uh-huh. So that goes everywhere that you've got a wooden joint, like those trim molding up there that is in the corner. And what about all the nails, though? Do you leave them alone?
The nails that aren't flush, we try to fill in with some putty, regular painter's putty.
And then you're taping on just, 4mm plastic over all the window openings,
Yep.
right?
Yeah, just to prevent them from overspray.
Okay, now what kind of paint is it that we're using?
We're using a latex paint, house paint.
Yep, that's pretty much standard in new construction up here, right?
Yep.
And tell me about this machine. What kind of a sprayer is it?
It's an airless sprayer. What that means is it uses pressure to push paint through the line in order to spray out the tip.
Okay. The color that was finally chosen for the trim is kind of a putty. Kevin is getting started with the trim paint on the soffit. He's using a spray shield to prevent the overspraying of paint onto our metal roof. Once this coat of trim paint is dry, he can get started spraying the clapboards with a different color. This house has a lot of decorative trim, so that means that not everything can be sprayed at once, and many areas have to be brushed. But right now, Kevin's getting started over on this side where we've got these recessed panels, and they get sprayed the same color as the clapboards. Now all of this will have 2 coats of paint on the field as well as on the trim. We're not worrying too much about overspray onto the trim here because we're doing 2 coats. Kevin will come back later and paint the trim after the field coat is dry. Now there's a technique to using a paint sprayer like this. First, you need to hold the nozzle 6 to 8 inches away from the surface of the clapboards. The nozzle must also be held perpendicular to the wall. That's why Kevin is painting by making narrow swaths across the surface. The narrow swaths help him control the consistency of the coating and avoid drips. Go to bobvila.com for more information on choosing a paint palette for your home. Well, the kitchen cabinets have arrived, and Ryley's here with Pat. Now, the first thing you always do is unpack them and lay them all over the place. So I guess what we've got here is the refrigerator unit, and you've already installed the unit where the oven and the microwave go, and I think this is meant to be the bake center. But Ryley, this is the easy part. When you got a whole array of cabinets, where do you get started?
Well, the first thing you want to do is establish where the top cabinet is going, and that's going to be dictated to us by this refrigerator cabinet.
So the height here, which is what?
90 inches.
90? Yep. That establishes the top line.
Exactly. And so what we've done is, now that we know what that is, we've established a line where we want to hold this cabinet to, a level line there. and we're going to start just coming right out of that corner with it.
Now, this is all new construction, so you assume it's nice and plumb and no problems,
Well,
right?
you hate to assume anything, but it should be. We've checked it, and it looks pretty good.
And what are all those holes you've been poking up there?
We found all our studs for the anchoring the cabinet to the wall, and we've transferred those inside to the cabinet, and we've pre-drilled some holes, so we're ready to install.
Pre-drilled, you've done the prep work so that the holes are going to line up exactly with the studs. Can I give you a hand with it?
Yeah.
Sure can.
Okay, we've got a couple of dead men here. We'll kind of slide this down a little bit. Okay. Put another one over there in that corner.
Good. Okay.
All right. This is just
We'll
temporary
just kind of
support.
balance it there, Bob, and I'll kind of check, make sure we're on our line up above.
All right.
Go here.
Okay.
Now, if you're doing this single-handedly, I suppose you could make yourself a little bit more elaborate dead man with...
Exactly, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you got a hold of that, Pat?
Yep.
How's that?
Got to come to me, just a little bit. Okay, right there.
Okay, you happy?
Yeah, Ted, if you want to get one on this
Okay.
close to me.
All right. Well, while all of this fastening is going on, I recently visited with Brian Stowell at the Crown Point Cabinet factory in Claremont, New Hampshire. Watch. Brian, what are the different types of woods, the different species that are being used for all these cabinets that you make here?
Well, Bob, we use a lot of different woods. If you take a look over here, you'll see that we use a quarter sawn white oak. It's been a favorite furniture makers for many, many years.
Yeah, there's the distinctive grain that you get with quarter sawn. And the easy explanation is that the round log is split into quarters and then boarded out, and that's where you get that grain.
It gives you a great look and also a very stable wood.
Yeah, and so once it's finished, this is the look that you get. And there the quarter sawn grain shows up again. All right, so you got quarter sawn oak, and then what's this?
This happens to be Appalachian cherry right here, which is one of the more popular things that we do.
Cherry is always a real favorite. Gee, Bryant, that looks like, could it be a bullet?
I'm quite sure that's a bullet. So it looks like there was a hunter in the Appalachian Mountains, and it looks like he got a tree instead of a deer.
Yeah, so when this is finished, it looks like
Like this door sample here.
This is an example of finished cherry.
And again, that's one of the most favorite woods used in kitchen cabinets these days. And then what's behind you here?
Behind me right here, this is mahogany, and this is a very nice wood. It's very wide and very stable.
mahogany is a terrific wood to work with.
It's a great wood to work with.
But it's not a domestic wood, it's imported from where?
It's a Honduras mahogany.
Okay, Central America.
Right, and people ask, is that from the rainforest? Absolutely not. Here is an example of what it looks like when it's completely finished.
Yeah, no, it's very elegant, useful not just in kitchens, but also in libraries and...
Offices,
Yeah,
dens.
exactly.
And then you've got a painted door and drawer front sample here, and that really is beautiful. What kind of wood is this made out of?
This is done on silver maple, and it's actually a genuine old-fashioned milk painted finish that's hand brushed.
You can see the hand brushing. It's beautiful.
Thank you. It's done in many, many different steps. It's very labor intensive, but it's a great look when you get
Yeah,
all done.
absolutely.
Very authentic.
Now, obviously, all of these are the door fronts and the doors, and that's the money. But in terms of the boxes themselves, what are the boxes made out of?
Because it's a custom cabinet, we use only premium hardwood plywood for the interior.
Okay.
And if you are opening up doors, you'll see a clear UV coat of maple plywood. If you have open interiors or glass door interiors, say it's a quarter sawn kitchen, you would have quarter sawn plywood, so it would be finished to match.
Okay.
And the reason we go with the clear on the other cabinets is so it's nice and bright when you open up the inside of the cabinets.
Now, each kitchen is a custom design and a custom order. How do you go about maximizing making these boxes out of the plywood?
Well, we do it on a couple of different machines. We have a machine that is basically an overhead router. It's a CNC machine.
What does CNC mean?
Computer numeric control.
There you go.
And basically the gentlemen that do the CAD work for us in the office will design the very custom cabinets, the one with the angles and the corners, and they will create a program and they will download it to the machine, and the machine will run that entire sheet. You'll put a 4x8 sheet of cherry plywood as an example,
Yeah.
and it will run the entire sheet, and it will make all the cuts, it will make all the dados, and it will drill for shelf pegs and that type of thing. It's a very nice machine.
Yeah, you're maximizing the use of the wood so there's very little waste, and you're also really cutting out any human error.
Yeah, it's very important to reduce waste because, one, it's expensive, but two, you don't want to waste any natural resources, so that's very important to us.
Excellent. And then when it comes to actually working with the hardwoods, what are the steps there?
When you're working with the hardwoods, the first step is to select the lumber. If somebody wanted cherry as an example, we buy a premium, the top grade of cherry available, but we have to select out of every single board. You have to pick up a board and look at it and decide what is acceptable to be in the board and what is not.
Well, that piece with a bullet would probably get cut out.
As an example, that would be cut out.
So once all the boxes are assembled, you got to make the doors, right? And that's where you're using the hardwoods. What's the first step here?
Well, the first step is to come over to the chop saw. You will select a board like this cherry lumber you see here. He will cut it to the length that he's specified to cut it to. He will match the grains.
So this is all visual matching.
That's correct.
And then, of course, they've got to get jointed, and what happens? Glue them up?
After they're jointed, they're flipped over, and they're glued up on our large glue clamp rack.
So that's a terrific rack, because it just rotates, and you can really load it up. Is it regular carpenter's glue?
No, it isn't. It's got a special additive to it because we have an oven-baked finish. It has to be able to withstand the heat of the oven.
Okay. And then once you've got them all glued up, you have to shape them, right?
That's correct. At that point, what we do is we take them to a high-speed profile cutter that when you put them through, it will put a nice beveled edge on it to give you a raised panel.
And what's over here?
Well, believe it or not, Bob, this is an entire order of cherry doors waiting to be assembled. These are the stiles, and these are the rails, and they've been grooved, and they've got tongues on them, and they're ready to be assembled over where they assemble doors on the door.
So it's essentially a tongue and groove construction. What are these little black balls that go in there?
Actually, those are called space balls, and we purchased a machine that basically allows us to put a rubber spacer. When you put it on the machine like this, you've got a rubber spacer.
So it's shooting these little rubber spacers into the grooves.
Into the stiles and rails. And what that does is it allows the panel to expand and contract naturally with wood movement.
Sounds like a good plan, because of course the panels do not get glued to the frames.
No, the panels do not get glued to the
And
frames.
here he's in the process of gluing the frames themselves. And this is just like you'd do it in your own workshop, but then the panel just floats in the frame.
That's correct. The space balls actually hold it in nice and tight, and if the panel decides to expand, it can.
That has to be done by hand and by the eye of the craftsman.
It's got to be checked for square.
Now what's the next step?
Actually, the next step is that they've got to be machine sanded and then hand sanded, because if you're going to get a real furniture quality finish, you've got to finish sand every single piece.
And all of these palm sanders are hooked up to a vacuum system so that you have complete dust control.
That's correct. We have vacuum tables and we have hand sanders that have the hoses on them so that we don't have a lot of dust in the shop.
Now, most of the cabinets get a natural finish, right?
That's correct, stained and natural.
Okay, and that's what these women are doing over here.
That's correct. Everything is hand stained.
But what about the painted finishes? They've become so popular now, and some of these colors are amazing.
Well, I appreciate that, Bob. One of the things that we do that a lot of people don't do is the old-fashioned milk painted finish, and it's a finish that's been around for hundreds of years, and it's applied with a brush, coated, sanded, and coated in multiple steps.
And then you have to put a sealer on it, right?
That's correct. It's very durable, but it still needs an oven-baked sealer and an oven-baked top coat.
And this is basically lactose and lime. I mean, it really is milk that's in the equation, right?
That's exactly what it is. That's correct.
All right, so what's happening at this stage, Brian?
This is where the cabinetry comes all together. Basically, we have different stations to build base cabinets and wall cabinets. What we have here is a cherry base cabinet that's being assembled. And after the box pieces are all put together, the face frame is attached to the front.
Right.
And the drawer slides into it, and he's dying with the drawer right now.
All right, so basically this is where the finish work meets the boxes.
That's correct.
And the cabinets are done, labeled, and ready to go out the door.
That's correct. There's one final quality check, and then they're gone.
Thanks for the tour.
Hey, thank you, Bob. We appreciate it.
When we come back, we'll install the rest of our kitchen cabinets at our Vermont farmhouse. All right, one thing about hardwoods, it's heavy.
It is. Very solid. 3/4 inch boxes.
Pat, you ready for us to put it in there?
Finish measuring up my line here.
Okay. This is a tricky cabinet because it goes in the corner, and right next to a dishwasher. I think you got to get out of there before we can really. And it'll kind of float in there. It doesn't go precisely against the back wall. Hold on a minute.
Just keep it away a little bit, and I'll just hold it back a little bit. Let me pre-drill this hole.
We've got the door off of it for installation, but this is a nice time to see this feature, which is very nifty. It really takes advantage of all the storage space in a dead corner.
Are you ready, Pat?
Yeah, if you want to bring that up to that line we got there. Okay, we'll start out with that top one first. I'll set right on the line?
Yep, go ahead. Good. Good.
I got one more one in the middle here.
Yeah, get it good and tight. Okay. Now, when you have the other base units that are all basically stacked one next to the other, how do you make sure that your stiles are going to come out nice and flush and tight?
Well, we've got this cabinet clamp, which is made for cabinets, and it works possibly 3 ways for you. One of these
So I see it, yeah. So you have to take the doors off first,
we'll take
right?
the doors off.
Okay. And now show us how that
Well,
fits.
those will take the clamp.
So one part of the clamp brings the two stiles together, like so, and then this part makes sure that they're flush.
Right. They'll make sure our
And
tops
then
are
what?
nice. Then they do is they have a hole right here all set for you to pre-drill and screw the cabinets together.
Okay, so then you drill a pilot hole that is going to be precisely down the middle of the stile.
Then we'll take the clamp.
Just move it up and do the same thing all over again. Oh, this is really looking beautiful, guys. And Ryley, I do like that hardware for sliding in and out, you know. Bottom-mounted drawer slides, they're very nice. And Pat's got the glass shelves going in place. Now, the designers picked an interesting color combination. If you think about it, it's the reverse of the outside of the house, where we've got a green field with off-white trim. But it looks very, very nice in here. And when this gets fitted out with the stove, the refrigerator, the dishwasher in the corner, it's all going to work out very nicely. We've got full 1¼ granite tops coming in here. And let me show you over on this side what we've got, because this is a cabinet that's designed to come all the way to the bottom of the granite. It's temporarily on top of these 5/4 boards, but when the granite is installed, it'll run all the way to the back inside the cabinet. Perfect spot for some appliances like the coffee maker that you don't want to see all the time. Just need a plug in there. Very nice. Find out more about kitchen cabinets and design at bobvila.com. Well, that's a wrap. Come home again next time. We'll be doing lots of finished carpentry all over the place, mostly in the living room. Also a visit to the Cobb Hill co-housing community not far from here to look at their super insulated windows. Till then, I'm Bob Vila. It's good to have you home again. For lots of information and resources for your home improvement project, check out my website at bobvila.com.